Our next example here, we're going to be calculating the firing angle that this projectile, or whatever it is, would be launched at from this point to hit this point. To calculate firing angle, we must first have an initial velocity, and so that's been provided. The initial velocity is 37.1 meters per second. And I've already done the calculation for the range. And so using that same formula that we used in range, we have figured out what x is, that distance, 132.39 meters. And so we're going to use a manipulation. We're going to manipulate this formula right here to solve for theta. And so in this case, if we rearrange that formula, 2 theta is going to be equal to the inverse sine of gravity times range divided by initial velocity squared. And so we plug in our variables now, and we can solve for the angle theta. And so if we do that, acceleration to gravity is 9.81. It's a negative 9.81, and so that negative cancels. So I just have 9.81 times the range, which was 132.39. Remember, we already calculated for that right up here. We divide that by initial velocity. That's given to us. It's 37.1. And that initial velocity is squared. And we take the inverse sine of that. So we calculate that. We'll figure out your top, figure out your bottom, and then on your calculator, depending on what kind you have, you should be able to find the sine function, and typically inverse sine is right underneath that. And so on my calculator, I have to hit second and then sine to get the inverse sine. And so when you do that, you should calculate the top out to be 1298.75 divided by 1376.41. So you divide those two numbers and you get 0.944, something close to that. You take the inverse sine, and you get 70.73. The last thing we have to do, we still have 2 theta over here on this side, and so we have to divide this number by 2 to get our final answer. So we do that, and theta is equal to 35.37. 35.37 degrees. And so that's the angle that this would have to be launched at in order to hit our target. If our target is 132.39 meters away, and we have an initial velocity of 37.10, we would have to set whatever we were launching at an angle of 35.37 to be able to hit that target.